You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
So they announced that there's going to be another Halloween movie. The Michael Myers character is going to terrorize Jamie Lee Curtis once again. I mean, this guy has been trying to kill this woman his whole life. Does there come a point where Michael Myers just puts the knife down and goes, "Look, I was going to kill you, but what are you, like 60 now? I mean, why don't we just have a beer and let nature take its course?" So, now I'm not here to lament, the Halloween franchise. Instead, we're going to use the Halloween franchise to talk about what's going on in film as a whole, because this is the part that confuses me. As a lifelong fan of these movies, and when I say these movies with air quotes, we're talking about genre pictures. We're talking about science fiction movies, horror movies, comedy movies, movies that are not just, sipping tea and talking about the Andersons down the street. Did you hear the Andersons down the street? Yes, I did hear about the Andersons down the street. Those movies have their place, and I like some of those movies. Some of those movies, I mean, my family can attest that I put these movies on, I cry like a baby. And they're just run-of-the-mill movies about slice of life, but these genre pictures that tell these more fantastical tales, these have more resonance because these are the movies I saw and resonated with me as a kid. Halloween is a staple. I mean, everybody got... So I was too young to see Halloween in the theater. My mother wasn't going to take me. But it was one of those movies that as soon as we got a VCR, I was like, oh, there's a whole world opening up to me with movies that came out before I was able to go see them in the theater. And then when they caught up to me, and the Halloween franchise lasted all through the 80s and the 90s, my friends and I went and saw them. I remember we went and saw the return of Michael Myers. It was a big event because, the third one doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It's about masks. But the new one has Michael Myers in it. So are we going to see it? Yes, it's Michael Myers. And then when Mike Myers showed up on SNL, we used to make fun of him all the time. It's Mike Myers. He's going to kill everybody. No, he's just, his characters. He's just Wayne. But I bring this up because I'm curious, and I'm going to pose a question that I don't know what the answer is. And that's got me perplexed, because the answers are out there. The X-Files has taught us that the truth is out there. But, okay, so I have some web pages up here. The original Halloween came out in 1978, right? This movie started the slasher film genre. Psycho is in that genre, but it wasn't about stalking teenagers who have sex, and there's a little bit of nudity, and then somebody gets stabbed, right? The first film is fantastic. It's an amazing movie. So, of course, the studio wanted to cash in on it because, I probably get this wrong, but I know at the time it was one of the most highest grossing profit to cost movies of all time. Like, Halloween cost nothing. They got everything off the shelf, and they shot guerrilla style, and Carpenter used all of his skills and made this movie, and it resonated, bang, and it makes a ton of money. So, of course, the studio wants another one. So 3 years later, Halloween 2 comes out, has that great icon of the skull coming out of the pumpkin. You know what I'm talking about, Nathan, right? I always love that image, and it's fantastic that you use it. But it was just really cool, right? And it picks up, like, it's one of those few sequels that isn't about, well, here's what happened 6 months ago, or I remember last summer. No. This movie takes place, boom, Loomis goes out on the rail, and Michael is gone, and the events just continue. It's like the horror version of 24, man, because we don't lose any time. It just keeps going. And it ends with Michael getting what? He gets Loomis causing an explosion. Michael is engulfed in flames and falls dead. I think it was Carpenter's way of like, look, okay, we had a good time with this, but he's just a guy in a mask. He's not a demon. He's not a spirit. Eventually, somebody with a gun or a weapon is going to stop him. So he ended the franchise. And 2 movies is not a franchise. And it's funny how that stupid word gets bandied about. Now, they're franchises. They could just be movie series. They could just be movie series. Because franchise, to me, the Star Wars is a franchise. Because it's movies and every kind of product, and Halloween does have products, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about bedding, birthday supplies, action figures, Lego sets, and I know us Halloween fans would love to have all that. I mean, could you imagine going to Target and, I think I'll get the Mike Myers twin bed set. Don't you want it bigger? No, I sleep alone. I'm a horror fan. Oh. But I mean, if they had Halloween and Freddy Krueger breakfast bowls like they did with Star Wars and cereal and all that, and I know they have parody products that are coming out and they're trying to make up for lost time because they know that these are now licenses that people dig. But the word franchise should be reserved for Star Trek, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, that kind of thing, Not just, a horror movie, they're series. It's a horror movie series, right? Because franchise is like, there's never going to be a ride at a theme park. There'll be a walk-through maze for a couple of months. Does that count? I don't know. Am I answering my own questions? I don't know. But the big one I'm going to pose is, we're going to get there eventually. So, Carpenter ends the Halloween franchise. And the studio's like, why don't you make another one? So John Carpenter has this brilliant idea to make a Halloween movie every Halloween as a anthology series where they're not connected. They're just Halloween stories. And what a great idea. Like, I loved Amazing Stories on TV. Amazing Stories, Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt. I used to do amaze my friends by doing the whole Tales from the Dark Side opening. Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality, but there is, unseen by most, another world. An underworld that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side. I even watched Monsters. Do you remember Monsters? It was a 30-minute goof of a show, but they promised every episode there would be a new monster. And most of them were silly, but there were a couple that were terrifying, right? So this anthology series gets set up with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982, and it bombs because people go to it thinking that they're going to see Michael Myers at some point. And Carpenter was like, no, if you saw the movie, he died. And we used to have this at the video store. When Young Guns 2 came out, people would bring it back upset that certain characters weren't in the film. And I would say, did you see the first movie? Oh, yeah, I love the first movie. Did you watch the first movie? All the time. Those characters died. Oh, so they can't be in the sequel. They're dead. Unless they're going to be a ghost. Hobson shows up in Arthur 2 on the Rocks, even though he died in the first one, but he's a figment of Arthur's imagination. Oh. So Mike Myers can't be in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. He's dead, right? So Halloween 3 bombs, and it didn't deserve to bomb. Halloween 3 is one of my guilty pleasures. I really like that movie because it dares to be different. It dares to go above and beyond. And I love Don Post masks, which are the centerpiece of the movie. I have a set of the Don Post Silver Shamrock masks in my living room right now. That's how much I love Don Post in that film. So the Halloween franchise has to go, I said franchise, the Halloween series, see, even I'm doing it, has to go away for a while. So it's not until 1988, I was 17, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and I remember going to the theater like, hey, man, Michael Myers is back, and it's like, oh, cool. But it's another slasher movie, but that's okay. I mean, some movies don't have to be any deeper than they are, right? So, and the other thing is you can make these movies really cheap, right? So Halloween 4 is a hit. So the next year, Halloween 5, The Curse of Michael Myers picks up. I'm reading this. It's 6 years later, right? So now we're up to Halloween 5, The Curse of Michael Myers. So we've got Halloween 1 and 2, Michael Myers. Halloween 3, Masks. Halloween 4 and 5, Michael Myers. We're up to 5 Halloween movies, 4 starring Michael Myers. And that's 1989. Then, of course, whenever these movies... Friday the 13th was the only one that stuck to it, right? But the rest of them, as soon as they get this high, they're like, oh, we got to ditch the numbers, man. We don't want people to know how tired we are. It's like, you can call it Halloween 6 because those of us who've grown up watching these movies are proud to say, of course I saw the other 5. Didn't you? This is 6? But they don't do that because... they think there's some stigma attached. The higher the number, the worse the film. And that's just not true. But it takes 6 years to get Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which takes place 6 years after the other one. So they're still doing that 24 thing, right? So 95 is The Curse of Michael Myers. And then I think what happened was a movie came out called Scream. Written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven, and Scream was the movie that turned horror on its ear. Whether you loved it or hated it, this was a movie that said, what if the characters in the horror movie knew they were in a horror movie and knew the rules of the horror movie, and the killer knows the rules too, right? So, Scream comes out and makes a ton of money. I think it was the highest grossing horror movie at that point. Could be wrong, but I know it made a lot of money. And they get Kevin Williamson to write Halloween 20 years later. They call it, this is so stupid. After Independence Day in 96 called itself ID4, which I don't know. I don't know why that was. Independence Day. Maybe they thought Independence Day was too long. This is before texting. This is before people turn dumb and long words scare them. We're still in the 90s where if you have a cell phone, you're a douche, right? Nobody has a cell phone. Or if you do, you're a doctor or something. It's not until 99 or 2000. It's not until the Matrix that cell phones suddenly become like more and more people are getting them. Like DVD players, right? But I remember going into Suncoast and seeing The Mask on DVD and going, why would I buy? I already own The Mask on VHS. It's great. No, this is a clearer picture. Oh, so I have to buy all my movies again. You guys are doing this on purpose, right? So Kevin Williams writes H2O. What? That is, let me just say, Halloween H2O, that is the dumbest title for a movie I have ever heard of. So, Halloween Water. Halloween Water is the name of the movie. I'm going to have a sip here of some Halloween water. That tastes just like Trick or Treat. How dumb is that? What are you going to see? I'm going to see a Halloween movie. It's called Halloween 20 years later. Oh, H2O. I refuse to go with you now because you're calling it that. But the big thing was they lured Jamie Lee Curtis back to reprise her role 20 years after the original. And that's great. That's fun, right? Let's end the story. So at the end of the story, she freaking cuts Michael Myers' head off. Kevin Williamson was given permission to end the series. Let's have him attack her. And guess what she does? She cuts his freaking head off. That way, it's no sequel, right? Brilliant. Let's go out on it. Let's end it. And instead, 4 years later, Halloween Resurrection. And you know what? I remember a lot of movies. I don't remember this movie at all. It must have come out. I have no concept of it. They get around the cutting of the head because Hannibal Lecter style, he switched clothes and broke the guy's windpipe so he couldn't scream and put the mask on him. And the real Michael Myers ran off into the night while Laurie Strode decapitated the poor paramedics driver, which the knowledge of it puts her in an insane asylum, right? So Michael Myers is back. He's killing people. They're making, oh, this is so stupid. You can tell exactly when these movies were made by what they're hanging the plot on. So a group of college students have taken over the original house in Haddonfield, and they're making an internet reality show. So Michael Myers is killing people while it's live on the internet. This is 2002, man. You remember the internet in 2002? Oh my God, live web feeds. What? We're still 3 years away from YouTube. So, of course, they're doing an internet reality show, and the creator is Busta Rhymes. Like, if that doesn't just scream early 2000s, Michael Myers, internet reality show created by Busta Rhymes. You know, it almost sounds like a bad episode of Fantasy Island. Like, he's the celebrity of the week, Busta Rhymes, and he's hosting an internet. I'm laughing so hard. An internet reality show, and it gets interrupted by Michael Myers. So that was 2002, and Michael was electrocuted at the end. You know, he was demonetized by YouTube, and he gave up the killing business because it was not friendly to advertisers. So that ends the Halloween film series from the beginning. We got from 1978 to 2002, 7 movies, right? We had Halloween 5, Michael Myers, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween 7, H2O, and then Halloween 8. So it was 8. There were 8 movies, ending with Halloween Resurrection in 2002. So 8 movies is a lot. I mean, that's as many as the Harry Potter series. You know, that's more than the Hunger Games. That's more than Twilight. That's right now, that's what? That's equal to Star Wars, right? There were as many original Michael Myers Halloween movies as there are Star Wars movies. 8. And it ended with Michael Myers finally meeting his end, being electrocuted on the internet by Busta Rhymes. What a way to go out, buddy. What a way to go out. So the franchise, the film series, is dead. It's dormant until 2007, when there is the inevitable reboot. We are going to start the hell over with Halloween. So Halloween starts the hell over. So the previous 8, count them, 8 previous 8 movies never happened. And we're going to start over on Halloween night with Michael Myers terrorizing people, directed by Rob Zombie. I've never seen this movie. I do know that it took a lot of heat because it gave Michael this backstory of being abused that we're somehow supposed to, somewhere in our tiny cockles of our heart, feel sorry for him. That's an odd choice to make as a filmmaker. They did it with Darth Vader, so what the hell do I know? But that was the reboot, and then there was a Halloween 2 sequel in 2009. So now we're up to 10 movies. We've started over. Halloween 2 2 is a thing. And what are we going to do now? We should have, at this point, Rob Zombie should have thrown everybody a curveball. Now, it's been, 9 years since a Halloween movie. But Rob Zombie, he's got a sense of humor. He's a funny guy. He gets irony. He should have made a big budget remake of Halloween 3 with all new masks and put in a tiny little nod to Michael Myers in there, but not a big one, but really do an honest to goodness remake of Halloween 3. He should have done that when he had his power. After 2009, boom, like right away. They would have made it. Because then they could have made Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, who's returning. And instead, they just let it go. And I know that these movies are, again, they're really cheap. So why they stopped, I have no idea. Maybe Rob Zombie lost interest. Maybe nobody wanted to take over the reins. I'm not privy to all that. But I do know that this Halloween, we're getting a brand new Halloween movie. And it's called what? It's called, I don't know, Halloween something. What's the new Halloween movie called? I have no idea. It's called Halloween. This time he's really back. We mean it. Right? So there's a new one coming out. And the gimmick is that it's the return of Jamie Lee Curtis again. So she's back. And it's one more time she's going to kill Michael. And then kill Michael. And I was like I said before, you'd think Michael would just go, look, it's been 30 years since Halloween night. You're not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. Why don't we just relax, have a beer, and one of us will have a stroke at some point, and that'll be the end of it. Because I don't understand. These are give me a break, man. This is almost turning into Bubba Hotep, where the two main adversaries are so old they can barely walk towards each other. And it's no slight on the actors. I don't blame them for wanting to do a movie. But at some point, it's absurd, right? At some point, it's the movie equivalent of the Roadrunner being chased by the coyote. At some point, the coyote just needs a meal and is just going to give up, right? But here's the thing. I wasn't even setting out to talk about Halloween in depth like this. Because, I have a bigger question. So check this out. The new Halloween, which is Halloween 10, is going to take place directly after or after the events of 1981's Halloween 2. So we're going to ignore Halloween 3, which that's fine. You can Halloween 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. They never happened. We're ignoring them all, and instead we're going to believe that Michael Myers has been shot by Loomis. He disappeared, and now he's back, right? And this is where the movie takes place. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Nobody does, really. It's kind of a slap to those idiots like me who went and saw a bunch of these in the theater. To be told, oh, yeah, we're retconning the whole thing. So those never happened. Oh, okay. It's like those people who watched an entire season of Knots Landing to be told it was all a dream and that Bobby Ewing was still alive. Remember when Patrick Duffy stepped out of the shower and it was like, no, that was all a dream. And you're like, how are we going to undo all these plot threads with crossovers and people dying and marrying and actors leaving the show? It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Right? Because Donald Pleasance is dead. Who are they going to get to play Loomis? Loomis will be dead. You know what I mean? It'll be like Marcus Brody in Crystal Skull. He's just dead. It'll be like Harold Ramis in the Ghostbusters remake. There's a tribute and then they're dead, right? But we're going to ignore all of that canon. It's all gone. And the fans are okay with this. It's happened again and again and again. This is the new thing. We're going to start here in the timeline and ignore the rest of the timeline. It never happened. All those movies, all those people who got up every morning and made these movies and acted, they didn't count. It's really mean when I say it like that, right? You worked all that time and it didn't count. They're going to do this with RoboCop as well. RoboCop 2 ended with Murphy fighting the bad guy. There was a RoboCop 3 that didn't star Peter Weller. There was a RoboCop TV series that didn't star Peter Weller. And they're going to ignore the TV series and the third film. And the reboot starring Michael Keaton, Sam Jackson, and some other guy who played RoboCop. And instead, it's going to be a reboot / sequel, RoboCop 3, where we ignore that other stuff. It's easy with RoboCop because most people didn't even see RoboCop 3. Most people ignored the TV show. And if you go on the street and ask people what they thought of the RoboCop remake, they won't even remember that it happened. Imagine an entire movie that people have forgotten. I could do a whole list of those. Movies are hard to make. They take weeks. They take months. They take hundreds of people. And when you talk to somebody and they don't even remember that it was made, that is a slap, man. I've been a big fan of Roger Ebert for years. Somebody wrote him a letter once and said, hey, whatever happened to that movie they were going to make about this hurricane? And he's like, dude, that movie came out 2 years ago, and the producers are weeping that you have no idea that it's already come and gone. And that's the RoboCop remake. That's the Total Recall remake, right? And with RoboCop, we're okay with it. Neil Blomkamp is going to make RoboCop 3, and he's trying to get Peter Weller to put the suit back on, but I think Weller's had enough of that. I would love to see it. Maybe they get another guy to do it, and they just put his face on there. That can be done, right? We could do that. No problem. And this is Neil Blomkamp's second attempt because he commissioned storyboards and a script for another version of Alien 3. This was supposed to be put into production a couple years ago. And it was going to ignore Alien 3. If you've seen Alien 3, that's the David Fincher one that got a bad rap because the trailers promised something that wasn't in the film. The trailers promised that we were coming to Earth, and that wasn't the case because Fox didn't want to spend for that kind of movie. But at the end of that film, Ripley dies. She sacrifices herself to kill the hatching queen. Alien Resurrection, 97. Joss Whedon wrote it. Ripley's back as a clone. Alien versus Predator, Alien versus Predator Requiem, Alien Covenant, Prometheus. All of these would have been ignored in favor of a film that starts with Ripley, Newt, and Hicks in an escape shuttle. They've left LV-426. They've been adrift and a new adventure. The storyboards were good. They had landed on this planet and started their own sort of life. I can only equate it to, if you ever saw that horrible film, Passengers, with Chris Pratt and, what's her name, Jennifer Lawrence, where there's a quick shot at the end of they've used all this technology to build like a hut and greenery and grow things, and they've been living in the ship for they're dead. They lived their whole lives on the ship as it moved through space. And Alien 3, the new Alien 3 would have looked like that sort of feel. Technology overgrown with grass, and I'm sure the alien would have landed at some point. I don't know. It got canned because Ridley Scott is too involved in these horrible alien, I don't even know what they are. They're like the evolution of the alien, because in Prometheus, it's kind of this white monster, it's a little black creature at the end with a big head, and then at the end of Covenant, they're like white, and then At the end of Covenant, David's on the ship and he's got embryos and face huggers, and really, Scott's like, you don't get to make your movie, Neil, because I'm going to make mine. And you're like, Ridley, these movies are terrible. Prometheus was like dating a supermodel. It looked amazing, but there was no substance. There was no conversation to be had. There's no bigger picture. The characters made stupid mistakes, rookie mistakes that even during the filming you should have been a red flag. Why doesn't Noomi Rapace run to the left or right instead of straight? It's the same thing that Jon Snow's brother did in Game of Thrones. Dash about, back and forth. I learned this from Charlotte's Web. These are life lessons, man. Run in a zigzag pattern. What does Will Ferrell say in that horrible Land of the Lost remake? Serpentine pattern, right? So the Neil Blomkamp alternate reality Alien, which again, the fans would have been totally okay with. Just make a movie. Tell us where it is in the timeline, and we'll ignore it, even though I was there opening day for Alien 3. I was there I went to the premiere of Alien Resurrection because Winona Ryder was in it. I was 15 feet away from her. I've put my time in on these Alien movies. I took my kids to see Prometheus. I spared them Covenant. So you're smacking me around by ignoring these movies, but I'm telling you it's okay. So go ahead and do it, but they're not going to do the Alien movie. And they might do the RoboCop movie. But they did do sort of Mad Max Fury Road. They never tell us where it is in the timeline. Is it a sequel? Is it a reboot? Is the Mad Max that we see in it actually the feral kid grown up? We don't know. They never tell us. George Miller just made a movie. He said, look, I don't care what happened at the end of Thunderdome. We're just going to make the movie I want to make. And since I created these characters, I can do whatever I want. And again, we're okay with it because we still have these movies. We can still refer to these movies. But if you want to sit down and talk what's the timeline, what's the canon, you're going to have to cut things out. Halloween, you're going to cut out a bunch. If they ever decided to make another Nightmare on Elm Street, ignoring the reboot, we'd all be okay. Set it somewhere in the middle of the Freddy Krueger timeline and we'll all be okay with it, right? These are easy fixes. So what's the big question? What are we leading up to? Can you guess? Why can't we do this to Star Wars? The big question is, why can't we retcon Star Wars and make any Star Wars movie that we want? Why do they have to match up? Why do they have to continue these stories? Apparently they don't. Because, you've heard my takes on all these movies, right? Force Awakens is just a remake of A New Hope. But J.J. Abrams is a savvy enough writer and director that he made it familiar, yet new. You got a guy in a helmet. It's not Darth Vader, but it's close. People have got lightsabers. There's a robot that's cute, right? It's all there. And not only did he do all that, but he set up all these threads that he intentionally left unanswered so that other films could answer it and have somewhere to go. And that's important if you're doing a series. I'm not a fan of these movies, these open-ended movies. I can't stand them. I want a movie that has a beginning, a middle, and an end because I'm a moviegoer and that's what I deserve. If you want to put something after the credits that hints at another film to come, that's great. But don't not capture the bad guy at the end and go, well, maybe in the sequel. Right? Imagine if Search for Spock, at the end they shrug and go, well, we couldn't find him. Maybe Star Trek 4 will figure it out. But they do this. The biggest example of that is Terminator Genesis, where they put all these threads out, and then it did so poorly they're never going to make a sequel. I mean, oh my God, I forgot Terminator. They're doing it to Terminator as well. They're going to ignore Rise of the Machines, where Sarah Connor dies. They're going to ignore Salvation, and they're going to ignore Genesis. So we keep doing this, but Star Wars doesn't get to do it. J.J. Abrams set up all these threads. Who are Rey's parents? How did Maz Kanata get Luke's lightsaber? Where's Luke Skywalker at? Why is he hiding out? Captain Phasma hates Finn. Are we going to see a final battle between them? They did all these things, all these threads. And Last Jedi just flat out denied them. If Last Jedi was an improv performer, that person would not be allowed in any show, because they would say, well, you're not allowed to improv with us because you deny everything. What does that mean? That means when somebody goes, wow, this is a nice coffee shop we're at, and the other guy goes, no, we're not at a coffee shop. We're at a bus stop. You go, oh, we're at a bus. And you laugh, but I've been on stage with people like that. I've been on stage with people where I get up, I walk over to an imaginary sink, and I wash my hands in it, and then they walk through the sink. And it's up to me to go, did you not see the sink there? I put a sink there just now. An imaginary sink. But Last Jedi just denied it all. Luke throws his lightsaber away. Rey's parents are nobody. Rey goes down to a pit to learn her destiny, and is told nothing. I mean, nothing. I don't know. Snoke is set up to be some big bad guy with a big backstory. They just kill him. We don't know. They hired somebody, probably spent 6 months making Kylo Ren's helmet, and he destroys it in the movie. Like, just little things like that. Like, and I applaud Rian Johnson for his chutzpah at doing all this in a movie, but it's almost like a scorched earth thing. I mean, I know there have been competitions or, like exhibitions where writers will write themselves into a hole and then hand the project to somebody else saying, you figure out how to get out of the hole. I mean, that's interesting and fun to see how you do it. But I think at this point, I mean, we'll see in the next film, but I think at this point, if they announced they were going to ignore episodes 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9, and start over and make Star Wars 7 again, who cares, right? Who bloody cares? Instead of somebody sitting and agonizing over all the crap that Rian Johnson threw at the screen, instead of that, why don't they just go, Rey wakes up and it was all a dream? I mean, you could make just The Last Jedi a dream. If the next movie opens with Rey handing Luke his saber again, I mean, imagine the balls of that. If the movie opened, Star Wars Episode 9, opened with Rey handing Luke his lightsaber again, and they never even acknowledged that Last Jedi took place. I mean, that would be amazing, right? Superman Returns did it. They never mentioned the Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. He never made any references to Richard Pryor in Superman 3. And that's a direct sequel. I mean, maybe did Superman Returns set up doing the sequel to 2 and ignoring 3 and 4? As I talk, more of these are coming to mind that they've already done. And yet, if you even hint at doing this to Star Wars, and look, they even rebooted Star Trek. They started over with Star Trek in a different dimension, the Kelvin universe, where Spock and Kirk meet a different way, but old Spock is still there. I mean, that they found a way. It's Abrams. To do both. Have your cake and eat it too. We're going to reboot the whole thing, but still acknowledge that the other one took place as well. What? But again, you mention this about Star Wars and people start getting angry with you. They call you toxic fandom. No, I'm just saying everybody needs a do-over. There's nothing wrong with a do-over. It's okay to do a do-over. When Sean Connery wouldn't return as James Bond and they hired George Lazenby, all he did was look at the camera and say, this never happened to the other guy. And then the movie continued. When they changed Doctor Who's, they came up with a reason. He went in a chamber and became somebody else. They've been doing this since time began. Didn't Sherlock Holmes die in the waterfall? Only to be brought back years later when it was like, I made a mistake. I'm retconning it. So the big question is, why doesn't Star Wars get that? Why is Star Wars so freaking canon? They publicly made an announcement and said, from Lucasfilm, all those books you read in the 90s never happened. Done. They're out of canon. They never happened. Okay. I thought they did. I thought that was how Leia and Han got married. How Luke, formally completed his training and became a Jedi and battled himself in The Last Command. His clone. I mean, those are great stories, but they never happened. Okay, they never happened. So just start over. Star Wars, you say, we screwed up. We're sorry. Episode 9 is going to actually be Episode 7. And it's going to open with Luke Skywalker building a new lightsaber and joining his friends on the bridge of some great ship as they scour the universe for the last remnants of the Empire. That would be amazing. Luke's back in this new one. He'll be a flashback or a ghost. We don't know. Are they going to undo anything Johnson did? Maybe. It's okay. People lie. They could say, Ray, your dad was Ben Kenobi. Well, no. No, Kylo Ren told me it wasn't. That I was just, my parents were beggars. Instead of good Ray. And then your parents were nothing but beggars who traded you for alcohol. And then the guy goes, well, Kylo Ren's a liar. Why would you even listen to that guy? He's a liar. Your dad was Ben Kenobi. And your mother was Mara Jade when she cheated on Luke. What? But you can do anything. So I ask you, in the world where we're getting a Halloween movie this Halloween that ignores, what did I say, 8 movies? Why can't we just reboot Star Wars? Just start over. How about that? Forget what I just said. And instead, the new movie opens and it's freaking some new actor as Luke Skywalker buying R2 and 3PO. And that the movie opens, and no explanation. We're just starting over. And it opens with they're building, the Death Star's built. They're going to blow things up. There's a new girl. They get Selena Gomez as Princess Leia. And it just starts over. How about that? How about the fact that Disney bought Fox, that they now own Fox and Lucasfilm, so they can re-release the original trilogy in its original unspecial edition form on Mega Blu-ray with extras as a token of goodwill to the fans. We're going to be able to buy the first movies without the special edition garbage in it on Blu-ray. Beautiful. They spent $10 million on the transfer, so it looks better than it's ever looked in its lifetime. And that's putting the cap on Star Wars, the original trilogy. And when the big, at the end of Raiders Lost Ark, that thing, the lid goes, ooh, shunk, boom. Star Wars is in and locked away. And the new filmmakers are told, none of it happened, start over. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. And I would just start Star Wars over. New toys, new characters. I mean, but not even new characters, new actors. New Luke, new Leia, new Han. Find people and find unknowns. Do what Lucas did. Only Ben Kenobi is the seasoned veteran, and it's Anthony Hopkins, you know. Your father was a great friend. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy. I mean, the mind reels, right? You hold open casting calls around the country for Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo. Oh my God. I don't care what you do. Do an American Idol television show. Call it Tatooine Idol, where we're looking for the next Luke Skywalker. How about that? Let's really market it up. And then Busta Rhymes will put it as an internet reality show. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I am Jeff Tucker, and this is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?